Haruto was a miserable and lonely orphan who was left behind by his parents on a space module. He lived in a dark and cruel society that concealed the last remnants of the vampire god's ancient weapons. But when a cosmic threat invaded their spaceship, he unleashed the dormant and corrupted vampiric powers within him and activated the hidden potential of the living weapons. This resulted in the annihilation of the entire world in the year 71 of the true calendar. Humanity built the Dyson Sphere to capture all of the sun's energy and enabled 70% of the human population to escape the Earth. In Gore Module 77, a flight requested permission to land. When two staff members greeted the students to Gore Module 77, they wondered why there were more than 2 students. Leaf stabbed them with a knife, claiming that a peaceful era had made the people of Jor weakling in the class. The teacher gave a lecture about the power balance between the nations of Dorsha. Haruto, however, was distracted by Shoko. His friend Kuma texted him to confess to her, and he choked on his own saliva. Shoko saw this and asked if he was okay, but he said it was nothing. She still moved closer to him, curious why he was staring at her. She tried to snatch his phone and wrestled with him until Marie took it and handed it to her. She repeated her question, and he said he found her cute when she was silent. She misunderstood this and assumed that Haruto found her ugly when she spoke. He explained himself, and the Riz Lord added that she looked cute all the time. Evening came, and Kuma was walking outside the school building with Anna. Noonan approached them to ask for some directions. Noon was curious about what Anna was hiding under her skirt, but stopped him and said she would never reveal that to him. While then deduced that the thing they were looking for was right under the building they were facing. They all headed there, and Kuma and Anna speculated if they were some new transfer students looking for some cleaning supplies. Shoko told Haruto that she felt no passion from him. She thought that he was not trying to win the contest and was letting her have the victory. He replied that he wished for a world where they did not have to compete for things like that when they could have just shared the field equally. Overhearing their conversation, Leaf approached them and, after snatching some keys from his hand, told Haruto that happiness was not something that could be split in half. He used the examples of love and fried eggs to illustrate his point. When Haruto attempted to get the keys back, Lau tripped him and said that he should not let people walk all over him. He should fight back against such people. While the girls had a swimming lesson from the attractive teacher Nanami, who was endowed by the BBA god with enormous breasts, Haruto and Shoko were cleaning a shrine. Kuma mentioned Haruto being knocked out by Leaf. Shoko was furious and said that he did the right thing. He thanked her for being angry on his behalf. Al and the others reached the secret facility under the school. At the shrine, Shoko told Haruto that any wish made at this shrine would come true. He became serious as he was about to confess something. In space, the Doria army received a coded message from Al, and they initiated the Slay All Virgins mission. Smaller spaceships called the WAF moved towards the Dyson Sphere from the Dorsha ship. Just as Haruto was about to confess, they entered the sphere. Eeyore's ships launched into the sky to combat the WAFs, but they were actually transformers from Wish and destroyed the ships with their miniguns. Haruto watched the dogfight in the sky, wondering if a war had broken out. The Dorch fleet bombarded the Dyson Sphere with energy beams, while Leaf and his companions infiltrated the secret facility. They slaughtered the scientists there and discovered a massive robot. A dying scientist activated the robot and sent it to the surface. Leaf killed him mercilessly. Haruto and his friend witnessed the robot emerging from the water. Shoko ran to a car to save someone, but a WAF blasted the area. The students recovered from the explosion, and Haruto searched for Shoko, hoping she was still alive. The others told him to face the reality that she was gone. Haruto screamed in anguish and ran to the robot, vowing to make Doria pay for killing his only chance of losing his virginity. He turned on the robot, named Valra, and it stood up. The WAFs targeted it. Haruto tried to control the robot, but a message on the screen asked him if he was ready to give up his humanity. The WAFs pounded the robot, and the whole world watched the scene on the internet, thanks to a girl named Akira. Valra was falling apart, and Haruto felt hopeless. He thought he would die without avenging his love, but he remembered her words to never give up. He agreed to give up his humanity, and the robot injected something into him. The robot transformed, and Haruto instantly destroyed a WAF in front of him. He flew to take out the WAFs in the air, and the DOA pilots could not keep up with him, as the robot was too fast. He wiped out all the WAFs and landed the robot on the ground, as it ran out of power. Everyone cheered for Haruto. He got out of the robot and walked away from it. He saw El approaching him and asked who he was. El said he was a member of the Dorian Army Special Forces. He stabbed Haruto in the heart and shot him twice to make sure he was dead. He was about to get on the robot when Haruto bit his neck from behind. Haruto's friends arrived and saw Haruto covered in blood but without any injuries. Well's friends also came and tried to kill them, but Haruto shot Veer's gun. He told his friends to go to a nearby vent. Dree asked why he was aiming at him. Haruto shot him in the eye and went inside the vent, telling everyone that he was Haruto. The Dorsha forces had taken over every place in the Dyson Sphere and captured the people. At Sakamori Academy, the Dorian forces forced the students to hand over their cell phones. Razo resisted and fought back until he was knocked down. A man announced to the students that Gore had surrendered to them. The nation they knew as Gore was no more, and now it was a territory of the Great Dorsha. Meanwhile, Leaf played rock, paper, scissors with Kuma to prove that he was Haruto. He was amazed at how well he could shoot, and Saki explained that it was because of muscle memory, as this body was trained for combat. They thought they should get Haruto's body back, but Leaf was more concerned about getting back to the robots and killing every Dorian. That would be the only way to avenge Shoko's death. Gore's president signed a document that stated they surrendered unconditionally. Reported to Kane that they had neutralized most of Gore's forces, and the people of Gore were being deported. They also retrieved the robot, but it was badly damaged, and its pilot, Haruto, was unconscious. The news of Leaf's betrayal spread throughout Doria. He killed some guards who were gossiping about him, and Kuma questioned why he did not spare them. Leaf reminded him that they were at war, and they had to be ruthless. They hijacked a helicopter, and Leaf dropped from it to kill some of the scientists who were working on the robot and scare the rest. He looked at his original body and wondered why it had healed. He moved it into the robot's cockpit. Saki joined him later and tied his body so he could switch his consciousness back to his original body. Both of them returned to their true body, and Leaf was puzzled by how he ended up here and how Haruto survived. Haruto attacked D's flagship and hit it hard. The pilots tilted the ship and made Haruto fall into the water. He eventually reached space and saw Earth in front of him, but his sightseeing was cut short by a swarm of wafts that assaulted him. Leaf saw him struggle to operate Valar in space and told him that he had no chance against so many ships. Haruto told him to shut up and fought back against the wafts. He moved at an incredible speed and drew a sword to slash each waft one by one. Meanwhile, the Doria ship arrived in space and launched two of its most advanced ships, piloted by Dree and Veer. These ships were the pride of the Doria Empire and were called heavy fighter units. Dree fired a volley of rockets at Haruto and controlled their path manually to follow him wherever he dodged. Some of the rockets hit Val, and the robot started to overheat from the damage in Haruto's movements. Wao, who had escaped, took Saki hostage and demanded Haruto to send the surrender signal to the Doria ship. But Dree confronted them, calling him a traitor. He asked Leaf why he shot him, confusing him. He smashed Valar into a rock, and Haruto used this chance to try to escape. Veer also joined the fight and was glad that Leaf turned traitor, as he always wanted to fight him. He kept shooting at Valra, but Dree told him to back off, as the fight was between him and Leaf. The robot overheated and stopped moving. Leaf asked Haruto what he had done to him, but before he could answer, he received a call from Shoko. Her voice made him emotional. He asked where she had been all this time, and she said she was stuck in a car underground. Leaf watched him talk and wondered what was going on. His clothes were torn, but his body was intact. Shoko's phone battery was almost dead, and she was worried about him as she heard explosions. Haruto told her not to worry, as he would come back soon and promised to resume the conversation they had at the shrine. Val was hit again by Dree, and its max limit increased to 666 from 100. Haruto cursed the robot. Leaf told him that there was a reason why the designers set the heat capacity of the robot to 666. He told him to overheat the robot and see what it did. Dree captured the robot and squeezed it until Valar VE overheated and was covered in bright, dense energy. Haruto committed seppuku and somehow turned the sword into a flexible beam of light. He used it to strike Dree's ship. The people at Doria's main ship wondered what that was and ordered to gather all the remaining forces. Suddenly, a fleet from the Nation of Eyes fired at Dorsha. They forced them to retreat. After they left, Saki hugged Haruto in relief, but he pushed her away. Haruto didn't want to feel horny anymore. He asked Leaf why he did not remember the things he was accused of. Shoko escaped from the car, and when Haruto returned to the Dyson Sphere, Leaf was captured. Shoko thanked Haruto for saving them all. She asked him to finish what they were talking about at the shrine. He tried to confess, but ended up insulting her. He ran away, and Kuma asked what he was doing. Haruto said he was a monster now and did not deserve any feelings. In the age where most humans lived in space, mankind was split into two factions. One was the Dorian Military Federation, and the other was Eyes, the Atlantic Ring United States. But another nation thrived in the shadow of these two giants. That nation was Jor, which always wanted peace until Doria attacked them. At Sakamori School, Haruto told the official Leaf's name. They pointed guns at him when they heard the name. Before they took him away, he predicted some events that would happen to Haruto.